Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is a dramatized retelling based on the purported federal courtroom testimony in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. Nobody expected him to show up. The court had already heard from Cassie, Will Smith, Monique, and others, but when Ice Cube walked through those courtroom doors, everything changed. A man who built his legacy by never backing down now stood face to face with a system he once tried to walk around, and this time he walked straight through it. Cube wasn't there for fame or headlines. He was there to testify, and what he brought with him, documents, voice recordings, names, and connections, froze the entire courtroom. This wasn't just about Diddy anymore. This was about the industry, an underground system of control, manipulation, and exploitation, backed by the very people we've been told to worship. The stories involving Jamie Foxx, Oprah Winfrey, Quincy Jones, and others now had a witness. It was supposed to be just another procedural day. Cameras outside the courthouse buzzed, reporters shuffled through paperwork. Diddy's legal team adjusted their ties, trying to stay calm as the walls around them quietly crumbled. But then, the doors opened. Ice Cube entered with no entourage, no press statement, just a manila folder in his hand and purpose in his eyes. The whispers started immediately. Jurors sat upright. Even the judge leaned back like he wasn't sure what was coming. Diddy didn't even look up, not until the room went silent and Cube spoke. "I wasn't called," he said. "I asked to speak." His voice was steady and heavy. It wasn't rehearsed. It was raw testimony, the kind that had been simmering under the surface of hip-hop for decades. "Some of y'all didn't realize I'm not part of the club," Cube began. And that's what pissed them off. He didn't speak as a rapper or an actor. He spoke as a man who'd survived the system, seen others fall into it, and finally decided to rip the cover off the entire thing. He began by talking about the club, the one nobody names but everyone knows. The insiders, the gatekeepers, the smiling faces on camera who control everything behind the curtain. "They don't want you in because they like you," Cube said. "They want you in so they can control you. And when you say no, that's when it starts." He looked at Diddy, who now looked visibly shaken. "That's when they start with the whispers, the canceled meetings, the bad press, the fake scams. You don't even hear the calls they make." Cube said he had seen it happen repeatedly. Good people, real artists, lured in with promises of fame and fortune, only to be told to kneel and play along. "And if you don't," he warned, "they make sure you never work again." And Diddy? He wasn't just in the club. He was running it. Cube told the jury he wasn't just there to name names. He was there to expose a system. He testified about Jamie Foxx and what he endured, because they tried to break a man I respect, Jamie Foxx. Cube recounted how it always starts, with the illusion of friendship, the open invitations, the phone calls from people you'd never expect. "First, it's flattery," Cube said. "Then it's favors. Then it's control." Fox, rising fast with undeniable talent, started getting invited to strange parties. Cube said the infamous basketball parties weren't just basketball. They were tests. No phones allowed. Strange guests. Black SUVs. Jamie played it cool, laughed it off, stayed polite, but he never fully gave in, Cube said. And that's when the rumors began. Suddenly Jamie was difficult, then sick, then disappeared. Cube told the court Fox's 2023 medical light emergency wasn't a coincidence. It was punishment. "They don't just throw parties," he said. "They build archives. They record you. They save the footage. And they use it." Cube said Fox once called him after a Diddy event, shaken. "I can't talk about it," Fox told him. "But I can't unsee it either." Then Cube dropped a bomb. "The next name out of my mouth is Oprah." He said during Fox's meteoric rise, just after Ray, right before the Oscar buzz, Oprah called him. Not to congratulate him, but to redirect him. "You're blowing it," she allegedly told him. She brought Jamie to Quincy Jones's house. "Not for healing," Cube said, "for submission." He described how Jamie later told him it was the strangest night of his life, that it felt like training, not mentoring. Oprah called it responsibility. Quincy called it legacy. but what they gave him was a leash. Cube said Fox began to change, not because he wanted to, because he had to. He told me, Cube, the only way to stay alive in this game is to pretend, and I watched that man pretend for years. Cube's testimony only deepened from there. He said Quincy Jones wasn't just a producer, he was a godfather. You don't get that powerful without making deals, Cube said. And I'm not talking business. I'm talking soul trades. The meeting with Quincy, according to Cube, was processed, Fox had told him. Not helped, processed. Cube said he'd heard similar stories from other men who vanished from the spotlight or had sudden public breakdowns. Quincy, he claimed, was the middleman, the one who passed artists to powers with no names. And the silence was maintained not just by fear, but by blackmail. Cube laid it out plainly. Diddy didn't just accumulate wealth, he accumulated leverage. They invite you to parties and record you, then they send flash drives, or they make blocked calls, or they play recordings of you doing something you don't remember. He said Jamie wasn't alone, that 2 other actors had called him after being compromised at Diddy's events. One woke up with photos on his phone and a contract on the table. Once they have you, you're theirs, Cube warned. That's why people smile through it, why they post pictures, laugh in interviews, because if they don't, the archive gets unlocked. Cube didn't stop there. He said Diddy doesn't deliver threats himself. His ecosystem does. Publicists, journalists, execs, stylists. And when someone pulls away, suddenly the gossip blogs erupt, old cases get reopened, and suddenly you're problematic. That's what happened to Jamie, Cube said. Right after he distanced himself, the smear campaign began. Then came the health scare. Cube didn't make direct accusations, but he made it clear what he believed, that it wasn't a natural incident. It was retaliation. They offered him roles, redemption. All he had to do was smile and pretend. But Jamie said no, and that's when the clone rumors started. Cube said that's how the system erases you. Slowly, surgically. You start losing roles. Collaborators stop answering. Studios freeze projects. They don't need to kill you. They just delete you. And the scariest part, he said, the culture itself is engineered. It's not about music or parties. It's about control. They script rebellion and sell it as freedom. Cube's chilling line echoed. The same people who push prison music own the prison. That, he said, was what Tupac tried to warn about before he was silenced. Diddy, Cube said, wasn't just a bad actor. He was a face chosen to glamorize destruction. If you didn't play the game, you didn't get airtime. Cube alleged artists with spiritual messages had their studios raided, their accounts frozen. The parties? They were vetting rooms. If you played along, you were protected. If not, you were erased. He cited a singer who refused a bad boy deal, then was blackballed and labeled unstable. You're trying to figure out what Diddy did, Cube told the jury. But the real question is, how many people helped him do it? And with that, the trial wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It was about an industry. The judge asked if Cube wanted to make closing remarks. He nodded, stepped down, and walked to the center of the courtroom. Looking straight at Diddy, he said, "You built a kingdom out of other people's silence. You called it success, but it was slavery." He turned to the gallery. To every artist watching, ask yourself, who's standing at the door of your dream, and what do they want in return? He took a breath. I stayed quiet for a long time. Thought it made me safe. But staying quiet makes you a collaborator. He opened the folder, held up a photo of himself in 1991, wide-eyed and hopeful. Then he tore it in half. That version didn't survive, but the one standing here today, he's not afraid anymore. He returned to the stand, placed the folder down, and said to the judge, I don't know what you'll do with all this, but now you know. You all know. Then he looked at Diddy one last time. You thought nobody would talk, that you had it all locked down, but now the door's wide open. And just before he exited the courtroom, he turned and said, They didn't kill Jamie. They didn't kill me. They just made us louder. Tupac tried to warn the world before he was silenced, before he became too political. before he started revealing the hidden powers that truly run the industry. Ice Cube testified that Diddy wasn't just a bad actor. He was a conduit, a chosen, face handpicked to glamorize the very lifestyle designed to destroy people. Artists who didn't play along got no airtime, no marketing, no label support. If you rapped about building something, you were shelved. If you talked about healing, you were labeled corny. Cube even claimed that artists with spiritual or anti-industry messages had their studios raided, hard drives hacked, and accounts frozen. The system didn't just want entertainers, it wanted obedience. He connected all of it back to Diddy's infamous parties, saying they weren't just wild indulgences, they were vetting rooms. Artists were tested on camera, and if you played along, you were protected. Step out of line, though, and you'd get framed, or disappear. Cube mentioned a known singer who once declined to sign with Bad Boy after a party invitation. Within months, she was painted as unstable, dropped from her label, and erased from award shows. That wasn't coincidence, it was punishment. Cube looked directly at the jury and said what no one else dared. Y'all sitting here trying to figure out what Diddy did, but the real question is, how many people helped him do it? In that moment, the trial shifted. It wasn't just about Diddy, it became a mirror for the entire industry. When asked if he had any closing words, Cube nodded. He walked to the center of the courtroom and faced Diddy. You built a kingdom out of other people's silence, he said. You called it success, but it was slavery. Diddy didn't move, his face pale, eyes locked on Cube. You didn't just throw parties, Cube continued. You created prisons, emotional, psychological ones. You filled them with people who thought they were being celebrated, but they were really being captured. He turned to the gallery. To every artist watching this, to every kid dreaming of making it in music or film, ask yourself, who's standing at the door of that dream? Who's holding the key, and what do they expect from you before they'll let you in? He paused, then added, I stayed quiet for a long time. I thought silence made me safe. But you know what silence really does? He turned back to the jury. It makes you a collaborator. He opened a folder, pulled out a photograph. This was me in 1991, bright-eyed, believing I could change the game, make art without losing my soul. He held up the photo, then slowly tore it, in half. That version of me didn't survive, but this version, the one who came here today, he ain't afraid of any of you anymore. Returning to the stand, he placed the folder down and looked at the judge. I don't know what you'll do with all this,